Cool, cool. Are you guys enjoying yourselves out there? Yes! Bring a little fun to you.
All right, so today I'm making a little video on how to HyperDocs. I'm going to start out by showing you a few HyperDocs that I've made. These are available online on my Twitter account at slog89 or at Teachers Give Teachers, because everything I make, I like to make and share with others. But let me show you a little bit of what I do with HyperDocs and the reasoning behind what I do. So this is one on the growth of Japanese culture. And this one was interactive. It's one of the first ones that I made, and you can see as I go on, there's more and more bells and whistles. So I start them with the pre-lesson. I give them information, some videos. I do kind of a hybrid where the kids will start these on their own, and then I'll go over some of the concepts, maybe highlight some of the things that I want to highlight. Again, a little bit more background information. I give them links and videos and things to do if they want to go ahead or if they want to go more in depth. I try to use a lot of color, big images, things like that. Hopefully it keeps the kids and everybody interested. So after they've gone through all of these things, I usually have a stopping point where we go check for understanding. And in this case, I had them write haikus about the previous slides. So I had them write 3 haikus that had to review what they just went over. Then I had them share those haikus with the people at their table and then pick the best of their 3 to share with the rest of class. So along with having individual activities, I also will have the kids do group activities. And here they had to make a tale. And this was reviewing all of what we'd studied in Japan and make a tale of Genji on their own, but basically about as a group on what we've studied for Japan so far. So they would share that, and then I would share that with class, share the best ones with class, but really just to get them discussing. And then back to individual, what did they actually get out of this? How can we address the big idea and the essential questions for the unit? So that's the one that's one of mine on Japan. This one, medieval Europe, I'm getting a little bit trickier with the things I'm doing. None of it's really that tricky. It just takes some time to think through and what your goal is. Again, I have a pre-lesson here. Give a little background. And here, if you remember color forms, if you're old enough like me to remember color forms, I did this where I had a manor and pictures of the manor. I had them create their own manor so they can move the pictures around, add more, and create it as if it was a real medieval manor, except it was their manor. And so they would do this, and again, I would have them share with their partners or share with class. You could have them blog. I have them blog a lot, and I'll actually grade some of those about why they made their choices. I'd have them put in text boxes for, okay, this is farming land, or these are other parts of what would have been in a medieval manor. I like to add these fun videos, little answers here and there. And again, sometimes it's just making them stop and think. Sometimes I'll stop the whole class and discuss those answers. Sometimes it's just digital notes, like it's their notebook now. I don't have them bring in notes. I used to have the kids do paper notes, but they would just rip the paper out and leave it on the desk. So now they can't lose their notes. It's all here. You can see at the end, I have some stop and think questions. And then again, this came with a little presentation at the end where all the kids at the table had to create a guild or what guild they would be part of. And then they would had to create their coat of arms and what the guild would do. This is my latest, and this is more of a consumer document, but I did do this in conjunction with HyperDocs, where I would stop. I let them explore for about 10 or 15 minutes. Some really cool things like the Google Art Project connected here. It's really great if you haven't used that yet. So I would let them explore for 10, 15 minutes, and then I'd stop the class, and then we would answer as a group. I used animations on this to show the kids different things, like 1-point perspective. I'm going to go back to what I did with HyperDocs. So HyperDocs, when I would stop, we would answer to have discussion questions as a class. So I could check to see that they're getting the stuff out of it I wanted them to get out of it. And lots of times when I let them explore on their own, they actually get more than what I want them to get out of it and actually go way deeper than I even expected them to go. So again, this one has lots of animations. This is made to be in presentation mode. one with me talking about it, and what I do in this case is I'll have one of the pair on the slide deck, and then I'll have another of the pair on the pair deck. And so they can look at these pictures and answer whatever questions that I've given them. Let's go ahead and get started and create one from scratch. So you can use any Google format. You can use Google Docs. You can use Google Draw. I really like Google Slides. That's kind of my forte. I think it has all the bells and whistles of the rest of them all in one place, but it's totally up to you. With Google Slides, you can also adjust. You don't have to do this view. You can adjust your size of your paper, and I'll go over that later, to make it 8.5 by 11, so it looks like a book. And if you print it out, it prints out like 8.5 by 11 paper. I like to start. I did used to use templates just to get going. Now I have ditched the themes, and I just start with a blank palette. Once you've done enough of them in a certain back or layout, they start copying in that layout. So I have my blank layout here. So this is going to be a how-to HyperDoc. First of all, for images, I like to use Flickr and go to the Commons. Obviously looking for things that do not have license restrictions. I'm not selling any of these either. So again, I really try to keep it to where they don't have any restrictions and cite as much as possible. Usually I'll do it at the end. But again, most of the time I'm using these in classrooms or maybe sharing them with other teachers. So I find Flickr has some really great images for some eye-popping images. So for this one, I want to find something, it says HyperDocs. So I like this one. Very easy from Flickr. You can download different formats. I'm using this as a background, or different sizes, sorry. So I'm going to make that fairly large. When you add well, first of all, you always want to title your stuff. This is, I guess, a 101 course on this. So make sure you have a good title so you can find it later on. Finding the background, you can change colors. In this case, I want to choose the photo, so I can put it by URL. I can search Google Drive from here. I can get it from my albums, all sorts of things. In this case, I downloaded it, so I can just drag it and drop it in there. You can use images that are too large, so you don't want to be too big, but if you're using it for a background or a large photo, you do want it to be large enough that it's not going to be all blurry when it shows up. So this should pop up any second now. And I like to use big, bold images. Whenever you do HyperDocs, it's kind of your own style, and this is just kind of my style. I like to insert word art for titles and things. A couple different, it's all the same fonts that you can use for when your regular words, your regular texts are then just a regular text box. And there's also a few other options. So I'm just going to pick something, I don't know, I get crazy with fonts sometimes, probably spend too much time on them. But let's just pick something that's somewhat bold. Use the fill tool to change the color. And I usually go through a couple. Again, to try to make it match. You can do outlines on this with word art, which you can't do on regular text. And so that looks pretty good for this. Yeah, let's change that to white. I think that'll stand out a little bit more. That looks a little better. So I'm going to insert some more word art for the title. And so there's our title, How to HyperDocs. And I'm basically going to match that. I'm going to change the font a little bit. But I'm going to try to match that to my original. And here's what's kind of cool about word art is I don't change the font size. I change the size of the word art. So if I want it to squish it together, or if I want it to be taller or thinner, I can resize it like it's an image or like a drawing. And again, I'm going to just make that match, not get too fancy, make sure it fits, and I'm happy with that. add another slide. And again, once you do a couple that are blank or whatever type of layout that you want, they're gonna, whenever you hit the add a slide, it will add it in that same style. So I'm gonna add a title to this slide. And let's look what are HyperDocs actually. Now, HyperDocs were introduced to me by Lisa Highfill, and she was a keynote speaker at Rio Grande High School, and I was there presenting also, listening to the keynote, and just heard her say one phrase about, well, if you're going to use a technology, you might as well use it to its fullest or something like that. And that really got me going with this. It really got me thinking, yeah, if I'm going to use a technology, I want to make sure it's better than just me substituting stuff. So if I want to insert a picture, a really good tool, if you want a portion, and I'm going to use Snagit. It's a great tool to use. It's free and it's an extension. And I'm going to take, this is the actual definition, the real definition from Lisa Highfill, Sarah Landis, and Kelly Hilton. And I'm going to take a cut from that. It creates the image. And again, if you have the time, or you should take the time and check out the official website, and you can see the background on HyperDocs and get links to all kinds of HyperDocs, some that I've made and some that other people have made. And again, you can see I just drag in that photo once I download it. And these are for downloaded photos. Now I'm going to add a text box. So I might have put this in if this was for students, which you guys are probably students watching this. I'm going to put in a text box, maybe explaining what HyperDocs are. And here I'm going to explain who this was by. So the term HyperDocs was coined by Lisa Highfill, Sarah Landis, and Kelly Hilton. So again, for students, I'd give a little bit of background. For more information, click on the picture. And so here's how you insert a hyperlink. If you've never done that before, I'm going to insert a hyperlink actually on the picture above. So what I'm going to do in a second here is I am going to select the picture, and you can put a link in two ways. You can press Control K, which I just did, and then I go get my link. So let me show you that again. So I can insert a link by going to Insert and a Link, or I can press Control K after I select what I want to put a hyperlink to, and I paste in. Now I can do other slides in the presentation, which I'm going to show you later on, but I want this to go to an outside link. So I'm going to paste in that HyperDocs link that I went and copied. So let me go back here. An easy way to highlight an entire URL is press Control L and then Control C. Now Control V, and I'm going to apply that link. And once I do that, you can see it. You can change the hyperlink, remove it if you don't like it. So that's your easy first step for HyperDocs, is adding a hyperlink to other things. So on my next slide, so I'm going to put in another title, change my font, make it big enough. And again, this is all stylistic stuff. You can use basic fonts. And now I'm going to put in what my definition is. So I'm going to copy that text. And that was from a HyperDoc that I made on HyperDocs. So we put that in, and the text was white, so I need to highlight all of it and change that color. So again, if you have other things you want to use from other places, you can always copy and paste. And then I can resize that. Usually when I'm putting stuff that I really want the kids to read and understand, I don't get crazy with the font. I do with the titles. So now I've given them the official definition. I've given them a link to find out more, to go deeper if they want to. And then I want that a little bit bigger. Now I want them to summarize all that in their own words. So what I'm going to do, and most people ask me about this. This is probably the biggest thing that people ask me about. And I got this pretty much from John Miller. And now I put it on, if you don't know John Miller, you should, especially if you're into Minecraft. It's a pretty easy thing to do. I ask for an answer from them here. So I want them to define HyperDocs. And I want them to do it here on their slides because they're going to keep these. I'll make a copy for them, and I'll show you that later on too. So they're going to keep these. And now I may just be a class discussion, but I also want them to write it down first. Get used to getting their work on paper. So here's the magic part that people mostly ask me about. Well, how do you get a form in there? How do you get them? Well, really all I do for their answer is I give them a text box to write in. I make the background a little bit of a different color. Lots of times I will put a border around it, and that's it. Now with this text box, you would have to go and look at all of theirs, which isn't a big deal. You could also have them, I have Google or a Chromecast in my room. Sometimes I'll have them cast that up on the screen with their answer, or it might just be something they write down and discuss with their partners, and then I ask them orally. But that's how just use text boxes to put their answers in. And again, they're a little bit of review. So far, you've read a definition, you've done a little bit more research, you've read my definition. Now I want you to summarize in your own words. Now for the next slide, I'm going to add a video. To add a video, it's fairly easy, especially from YouTube. All you need to do is copy the video URL. So if you right click or two-finger click if you have a Chromebook on the video, you can copy the URL. Now other videos besides YouTube you can only link to, like I showed Edpuzzle there, which is awesome. If you don't know Edpuzzle, know it, it's great. But if it's a YouTube video, you can actually embed this in the slides. Other videos, you can only put a hyperlink to their URL. So I go to insert a video. I can actually search YouTube from here, or since I already have the URL, I'm going to paste it. Now I have my video, I can resize it. So if I got a bunch of videos, or if I want it to be the main thing, I can make it, I can actually put borders and stuff around it. I'm going to insert more word art because I want a cool title for this one. And then I might add a question for this to watch the video and then answer a question. And I'll get to that in a minute. Let me make sure, again, I get a little crazy with the fonts. You can see tons of fonts. If you're somebody like me who really likes fonts, you can go nuts. Now you can have your kids answer for more than just in the document. You can actually link this to a form or somewhere where you can collect all the information. Like I said, you can use Pear Deck. You could use Padlet's another great place. I often have them blogging their answers to things. And I'll go in and grade them or read them. My kids are always telling me that they love the blogs because they get to see other people's answers and see how other people are answering. So in this case, I might want them to watch the video. So after watching the video, what type of shoes is Mr. Gray wearing? And again, it might be a check for understanding. I could actually collect this and grade it as a quiz. Google Classroom is great to assign these. I'm going to go over that later. And again, I'm doing a little bit of what I did in the last slide, but I'm just showing the difference. The other slide I wanted them to read and understand. I could have had them highlight something in the text to show me where they got their information. So something you can't do just on paper. And in this case, I'm just having them watch the video. So now I have a video for them to watch and answer questions. I have text for them to read and answer questions. And again, you can go as in depth with this if you want to. It can be very simple, or again, in the previous slide, I could have them highlighting. And I do that, oftentimes I do that where I'll give them a passage and have them answer, and then I'll have them highlight. And again, I have Chromecast, so I'll have them cast it up on the screen and show me their answer, or just show me the answer so we could discuss. And again, you could grade these as a quiz if you want to. In order to keep my text boxes uniform, if I like the size of one I made, for answers, I just copy it, I select it, and Control C, and then Control V to paste it, and then I have 2 identical text boxes. So that's a video and questions. And let's move on to the next slide. Again, you can see now that I've had a few that are blank, now I just press the plus and they come up blank. Now, I want to add an image. Now, I want to do a little vocabulary, but I want to make it pop a little bit for the kids. Again, I'm going to go in here. I know that this one I've already looked at the permissions on this, but again, in Google, you can go to usage rights. And there it is. So again, I want to show you how you can be, with just vocabulary, you can make it different than just writing it over and over again, or doing things on paper. So the first thing, because I like to have these big, bold pictures and things, I'm going to add this picture as my background. And this time I copied the URL of the image. And to do that, you just right click on the image, or 2-finger click on the image and copy. Then I paste it. And then I have that in my background. Now, in this case, I want to get a little tricky. I do think about who's going to be watching this. I do want to have a little bit, for me, some bells and whistles, or some bold aesthetic values, because I think it'll keep people more engaged in what they're doing. So now I'm centering my words here, and just using different alignment tools. And then let me pick. Okay, that looks good. Now, what's going to happen is I have one on top of the other, and it looks a little bit cluttered. So one of the things you can do, especially if you're putting something on top of a picture, is you can fill. Now you can't see any of the back picture, but after you fill, you can go to custom and then pull down your transparency, and I usually go about halfway, and then you can see through. So now we can see both overlaid on top of each other, or intertwined. Now I'm going to put our vocabulary words, and I do have some vocabulary words that I'd like you to define. So for the kids, again, for the students, I'm going to put in all the vocabulary words. Now, if you want the words to all be uniform in size and fonts, and sometimes I get tricky with that, but for this one I'm going to make it fairly easy. What I do is I do the first one, and then I select. You don't want to select inside. Let's make this a little bit. No, that's pretty good. So I select the entire text box, not inside, so my cursor's inside. So I select text box. Make sure your cursor's not in there, it won't. So select on the outside, then I Control C to copy, and then Control V, and I have 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position these around. I also do the same thing on. With the vocabulary. So I've given the kids the vocabulary words, and this is one of the things that I do with them a lot. And I don't usually just have them write definitions. Sometimes I do. I do sometimes put the definitions and the words all on one page jumbled up, and then I make them match them. Sometimes I put the pictures and the words on a page, the words and picture definitions, and then I have them match them up. And then sometimes, in this case, and this is usually, it's kind of a progression. You know, in the very beginning, I'll have them match words and definitions, and then pictures and words. In this case, I'm going to have them find the pictures. So they need to go through each thing and find a picture. And then I'm going to show you what the tricky kids can do later on. Now, first of all, I'm going to go to the other page, and I'm going to take a word, and I'm going to pick YouTube, and I want the student to find a picture that defines YouTube. So I just copied it and pasted it here. They could do the same thing. So I want to go on the internet somewhere, and I could search straight from the document. I don't know, for some reason I tend to always go outside to here. I feel like I find more doing it this way than searching right in the document. And right now for YouTube, for these two images I'm not going to worry too much about licensing, because I figure I'm advertising for them anyway. And so I insert the picture, I'd copy the URL, put that in. Now I'm going to resize my picture. And again, this could have been for something else. This could have been for defining whatever vocabulary words. Oh, and you notice my picture went behind. If that happens, you right click on whichever, the front picture, and I pick the front picture. I want that to be behind my words. I right click, go to order, and I send that to the back. Now you'll see the word pops out in front. Now, the other thing that I do a lot of times is I want these two images to be together. I want to group them together. So when I move them, they'll move together. So I select one and then control and select the other, or command and select the other part of the group. So I want these two grouped together, and then I press control or command G. Now they're grouped together. And so when I grab one and I move it, and I don't know why my find comes when I press Control G now, but when I move it around, they move together. Now, here's a tricky thing you can have them do. You can make flashcards or flip cards with a slide deck, and it's really cool. A lot of the kids have figured this out. I've showed them, and then some figured it out on their own. And so for Twitter, I want to define that on another slide, and I'm going to put a hyperlink. You can hyperlink between slides. So on this slide, I just want the picture, the Twitter logo, because that's my definition, my photo definition. So I'm just going to pick any of these. I don't know why I can never just pick the first one, but let's pick that one. And I'm going to copy that. And then I'm just going to paste that in, or paste in the URL. Now I can link these two slides. It's going to seem like, wait, you're just going to the next slide. But if you can imagine that slide was 10 slides down. So I'm going to link this like the hyperlink I did before. I select it. And you can look here. It's actually searching the internet for Twitter. So that's kind of cool when you're putting a link in. So I selected, press Control K. But look, I can do slides in this presentation. This slide happens to be the next slide, slide 7, but let's say it was slide 20. Let's say I did all the vocabulary words. You could go back and forth between the word and the slide. Now I come to this. So if I click on Twitter, if I go to that link, it'll take me to this slide. And then I'm going to hyperlink this image, because I want them, once they've read the definition, to go back to the other slide. So I want this to hyperlink back to slide 6. Press apply. And now I'm going to put this in presentation mode and show you how that would work. And again, it is the very next slide, but imagine that this was slide 20 or slide 100 or however many. That'd be a lot of slides, but you get what I mean. So for instance, I'm studying, what's Twitter? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it's it's where we tweet out 140 characters, and then they press on that and it comes right back. So I could have done that with YouTube. I could do that with all my definitions, and a lot of my kids actually do that now, which is another cool thing you can do with slides. That's why I like them. They're so versatile. All right, so in this case, I've inserted a document. I got this from Sheg. I love Sheg lessons from Stanford. They are awesome if you've not used them for history and even pre-lessons for the beginning of the year. They're just great. They have a lot of great things to use, and it's free. That's right, free. So I use this document, this primary source document, and I'll paste it in, and then I'll have kids answer questions. Again, we'll either discuss them or they'll be for them to keep, or again, I can check them. Now, I want to show you how to insert this table. And so in this case, what I did was I inserted a table right into the slide, and then I just changed some of the colors. So let's show you how we did that. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to get rid of that, or I'm going to add another slide, and I'm going to pick my table. I want it to be, 3 by 3 table. I can resize it however I want. I can resize the whole thing. I can do individual rows or cells. And so you can see I can type in whatever headings that I want. And then if I want to format cells, I can highlight the cells I want to format. So these I want to fill with blue, and I want all the words to be white. And then I'm going to make all the words bold. I've highlighted that whole row, and I want them to be that font, and I want them in the center. Now I want to outline the whole thing in black. So you might have to make adjustments to make it look how you want it to look. And then I put in my categories there for their answers. Again, I want those to be centered, but I also want them centered. See, you can see I centered it aligned it center and made it in the middle of the column or the cell. And then I want that to be a certain color. Now, again, usually where I want the answers to go, in this case, you don't really have to make those answers a different color, because I think you would keep that color, or you would put your words in there. If I want to copy and paste that, let's say I like that format, but I have more answers. I just press Control C, copy the table, and then I paste it into another slide. Another really cool tool that you can put in a HyperDoc that you can't on a regular piece of paper is you can put a GIF. And I use GIFs all the time for instructions for the kids. So I love Snagit again, and you can make these really quickly and easily. So I'm going to make one right now on how to insert an image into a HyperDoc, or actually how to insert a GIF into a HyperDoc. So right now what I'm doing is I'm recording my screen. On your screen, you would see a little capture thing on the bottom. You can't see it on mine. Now I go through and I'm explaining, well, this is how you put in an image. You can get it from a search, Google Drive. So I want pandas. First thing that popped into my head, I'm going to pick that panda, and I'm going to insert that panda into my slideshow. Now I press stop. It's done. Make it an animated GIF to put in. It's going to download it onto my computer because I asked it to. As soon as that's finished, I'm going to go back to my presentation. So I could either download it right now, or I could get the link. So now I'm going to go back to my presentation, and I'm going to add another slide. And you insert this. Well, first let me title it. How to add a photo or image, whatever you want to call it. And then I drag that right into my slide. Now, again, if you wait for a second, you can see that that is showing exactly what's happening. I love adding these, especially for extra instructions and things like that. And you can treat these just like photos with borders and resize them and all sorts of other things. All right, now that we're finished with the HyperDoc, you're going to want to share your HyperDoc. Most of us that are creating these are really sharing them with each other, and it's a great great deal. We get lots of ideas, get really creative. Obviously, you want to share them with your students too. So I use Google Classroom for all my eWork, and I think it's a great tool. What you can do with Google Classroom is you can create an assignment and then go to your Google Drive once you create the assignment. Through that assignment, pick which eWork you want to give them, and I'm going to pick this HyperDoc I just made. I'm going to add that, and then I can select my permission level that I want to give to the students. It could be instructions, and I just want them to view the file. It could be something I want the entire class to work on, so we could edit the file. And then finally, the one I usually use is I make a copy for each student. This is really cool because then they get their own copy and they can make their own edit. The only downfall of this is it's kind of like going to a copy machine. Once you make the copy for them, if you want to add something to it later, you can't do it. You have to have the kids manually do it. And if you have a typo or something, you can't go back and change it. But it's great to give the kids copies to keep on their own. And now the other way you can share it is from the share button. You can add specific people, and sometimes in the beginning stages I'll want to get some input and feedback from people, so I might share it with somebody to either help me edit it, or to comment or to view. If I'm in the editing stage and I have a bunch of people, I only give them commenting rights because I want to hear what they have to say, but I don't want them to be able to go in and change anything yet. But it depends on what you want to do. If it's with students, it would probably be to only view and then let them make a copy to edit their own. I can add a note once I've added specific people and say, okay, first period class, we're going to do whatever it is that I want them to do on this document, or sending it to whoever. This might be for our first period class. I can also go to the advanced settings and I can change permissions for the entire document. So I can make it public on the web. I can also give anyone with the link permission. I can give only permission for people in my domain. I usually make it public on the web. And when I do that, it defaults to can view. You want to make sure it is can view. If you make it public and edit, then anybody that sees it can edit it. You click save. If I want to add a class, I have my classes in my address book. So I want to add my first period class to this. I can do that and send it via email to all my students. And again, that defaults to can edit. So you want to make sure that you change that unless you want them all to be able to edit it to can comment or can view. I can also share using the link to the document. It's a pretty long link, but I can hyperlink it to, another document or an email, something in an email I sent them. But if I want to write it on the board, it's way too long to write on the board or put in a copy or something. So I can use a URL shortener. I like the Google URL shortener. I know my domain doesn't block it. There's plenty out there that you can use. Again, I go back and I copy the link, and then I go to the URL shortener. Paste it in, click that I'm not a robot, click shorten the URL, and now it's something I could write on the board that's pretty easy to copy down. A lot less mistakes with that than the other link, which I don't even know how anybody could put the other one in correctly. So that's how you share your documents. Now I'd like to share some people that have really helped me out and some people that you should check out. All right, and again, as great as it is to share these documents with your students, and they really do get your students engaged, it's great to share them with other teachers and get ideas from other teachers. So I want to share a few of the people who inspired me and who we continue to share with each other. The first three, Lisa Highfill, Sarah Landis, and Kelly Hilton, are the creators or the people who coined the term HyperDocs. You should definitely follow them on Twitter. Check out their HyperDocs website. Then Carly Mora, she does great work. Next we have Matt McFarland, who works down the hall from me. After that we have Sean Fahey and Matt Miller. And then last but not least, Heather Marshall. There's tons of other people to follow, but these are some great ones to start with. Next, let's look at some sites, some things that I like to use in my HyperDocs. First thing is Teachers Give Teachers. It's on Twitter and everybody's sharing all their lessons there. Sheg is great. There's free lessons. It's developed by Stanford education. They have a lot of great stuff. Edpuzzle for editing videos, adding captions and quizzes and things to videos. YouTube, obviously great. The Google Art Project, awesome. Flickr for photos. Through my ETC portal, through my county website, we have Gale Cengage Learning, which has a great database for information. And then last but not least, again, Twitter, and you'll get all sorts of great ideas from Twitter. There's all sorts of good people to follow, and it's kind of endless possibilities with professional development. So this presentation was brought to you by, well, that'd be me. My name is Rocky Logue. I teach 7th grade social studies at Templeton Middle School. You can follow me on Twitter at @slogue89. And this whole thing was inspired by these three and HyperDocs. Hope you enjoy it.